what's the definition of doing the same thing over and over but expecting a different result? That is what?
Insanity.
Insanity. But what's the definition of doing the same thing over and over but getting a good result or a better result each time?
Success.
No, it's genius is what that is. It's genius.
Welcome back to the Alliance Group podcast. Today's episode is a very, very special one. If you guys have spent any time in the independent life insurance world, there's a very good chance you may have heard the name Five Rings Financial. And if you have, then you already know the level of impact, production, and leadership that organization represents. My guest today is Mike Wilk, President and CEO of Five Rings Financial. He built this agency of 6,200 active agents from scratch, starting with, I believe, 18 people, Mike.
Correct.
Back in 2005, and he has been in the trenches of this business for decades. Mike has seen industry change. He has seen cycles, downturns, booms, reinventions, everything all over the board. And over the last 5 years, he has overseen one of the most explosive growth phases in our industry. So today we want to pick Mike's brain. We're going to talk about how you got here, Mike, what separates agents who succeed from those who struggle, what the best personal producers consistently do, and what it really takes to build an agency that scales and lasts. So we'll also talk about mentorship, partnerships, and where you see Five Rings going in the future. So if you're an agent, a builder, or someone who wants to build something meaningful in this business over the long haul, this is an episode you'll want to listen to closely. Mike, we are grateful for your time. Thank you for sitting through that very lengthy intro, but it is one that is warranted.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I've been looking forward. Actually, we were talking this morning and I was like, how have I never had Mike Wilk on a podcast? You travel all over the place all the time. How many nights did you spend in a hotel? Will you spend this year out of 365?
This last year, about 275 nights in a hotel. Yeah.
So that explains it, why he hasn't been able to stop by the studio in a while, but it's awesome to have you here. We've had some great meetings with Lee Duncan talking about the future this morning. So I wanted to grab you for a podcast. So Mike, let's start at the beginning, because I know a lot of people want to pick your brain. For those who know Five Rings but might not know your story specifically, how did you get started in this business?
So I think my story kind of epitomizes how most people join our company today. In a million years, it's the last industry I thought I'd ever be part of, and I was certainly less qualified to be part of. But at the age of 26, after five years out of college, I'd already had 8 jobs. I was kind of a mess, couldn't find my place in life. And I got invited to a financial seminar, which seemed to be a total mistake to me, because in my mind, people who get invited to financial seminars live in gated communities. They're wealthy already.
Right.
But I simply went out of curiosity to see if I could learn something that maybe would help me and my family. And it turned out to be the most life-changing event in my life.
Wow. So from there, talk about those early days. I mentioned earlier in the intro, you started out with 18 agents. Lyle and Tina Donnelly were there as well. What were those first years really like for you guys?
So let me take you back first. My beginning years, when I started 43 years ago, were scary. I mean, I had no sales experience, no money experience. I had a fabulous mentor who changed my life and took me under his wing and literally taught me exactly how to do the business and what the outcome could be if I just followed his example.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for a period of almost 20 years. And I got to a point, though, where I was approaching 50, and people thought I was going to go through a midlife crisis or something. And but the reality was, what I really wanted to do was start all over and build a company that I dreamed of my whole life, where we could bring people into the industry that have never been part of the industry before, or people who had been in the industry for a little bit, but had been over promised and under delivered,
Right.
who loved the industry but needed a second chance. And I wanted to build that type of a company where people were still dreamers and believers and can achieve more than they ever thought possible, but also a company where we would have to do mentoring and have to do teaching, like what had happened to me. And so we started with those 18 people in Denver, Colorado. Mostly Lyle and Tina Donnelly had 16 of those 18 people. I'd been working with them for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And we had a dream. That's all really we had, was a dream and a focus on changing people's lives. and empowering them with this opportunity. But the beginning years there were pretty lean.
Yeah.
And first thing we did was open a 12,000 square foot office with 18 people. That didn't make any sense. And our overhead was 10 times what we were earning. But you can do amazing things if you have a dream. And it all proved out to be successful and all happy ending for sure.
Yeah. I mean, here we are, what, 2,600 active agents? Is that correct?
62.
62. I got those backwards. 6,200
6,200.
active agents built from 18. So what you were basically doing there, Mike, what you just described is you had a successful career. Maybe people starting to see, maybe let's see how he's gonna, maybe start to wind things down. But instead, you decided to start all over and kind of rebuild things in your own image. Obviously, there's had to be some learning curve there, maybe some bumps, right? What was the number one lesson that you guys learned in that phase, in those early days? One of those lessons that you make sure that every ambitious agency builder hears from you today.
So one of the things we had to do is to include everybody. I'm a builder and I'm a recruiter, and I always have been. I was taught that way by my mentor, and it's the example I've always followed. One of the things we discovered pretty quickly, though, was that 80% of the people you bring into an agency are probably not recruiters and not builders.
Right.
And so you really have to have a different language. You have to have a different perception of how to move them, how to motivate them as being a personal producer. So if 80% of your volume is coming from those types of people, 80% of your training and 80% of your meetings need to be about production and how to get more clients and how to build a strong production base versus always having recruiting meetings, and which turns a lot of people off in some respects. So you just really have to be able to differentiate with the people you're working with.
And it's finding that balance, right? Because a good, successful agency that's built to scale, you got to have training on product knowledge. You got to know what you're doing. You have to know how to sell in order to teach people how to sell. But you also have to have those motivational and recruiting type meetings. So it's a balance. I see a lot of groups doing too much of one or the other.
There's no doubt. We recruit a lot of people who were from former agencies where all they talk about is recruiting, and every meeting turns into a recruiting meeting or an opportunity meeting. And since 80% of them are not heading that way, they're really turned off by that. And most of them are just looking for a way. How do I get more clients? How do I get in front of more people? And what's particularly important in our model is the mentoring model, where brand new people are not required to go out by themselves, but actually work with a field trainer, work with a mentor who really shows them how to do the business, as opposed to learning from your mistakes.
Yep. So what would you say the decisions or systems that are most important and critical to being able to build an agency that scales sustainably? What would that be? Making sure that you have that balance of training on both sides. What other systems are very critical, you think, to building a sustainable scaling type of group?
So we talk constantly in our company about always be recruiting. Now that sounds contradictory to what I just said, but in sales, you're either recruiting agents, or you're recruiting advocates, or you're recruiting referral partners, or you're recruiting power partners, or you're recruiting clients.
Or prospects, yeah.
You always have to be recruiting. And if you don't, your inventory dissipates and you're out of business. So all of our models are designed around making sure that people have a system that gets them in front of people, whether that's going to networking meetings or whether that's prospecting and through power partners or referral-based selling, all those types of things. It's critical that they have some type of a system that constantly gets them in front of people, because our industry is filled with educated broke people. They know the products, they know the systems, they know everything and about everything, but they don't know how to get in front of people. I'd say the key to our success, probably the most important thing, is we found a better way to get in front of people, an unlimited number of people, and we teach it and preach it constantly.
You just talk about Money 101.
That's one of the ways by doing our workshops. Yeah.
What is it that you did you always do workshop type selling? So for those of you guys who don't know, Five Rings does an amazing job of putting on Money 101 live events, which basically, Mike, the idea of that is to teach Americans what they never learned in school about money, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, most of our business, at least 75% of it, comes from our workshops, either Money 101 or Wine, Women, and Wealth. The reality is we do live in a society where we teach reading and writing and arithmetic, but we never teach things like how to stay married, how to raise kids, and how to handle money.
Right.
And we're trying not to get involved too much in the marriage and the kids deal, but really we have a poor education system when it comes to money. So we teach at a very elementary level the basics and fundamentals, the things we should have learned in school. So it's much easier to approach people about coming to learn and to be educated than it is a sales process. And so most of our focus is in that respect.
Why, Mike? Obviously, it's been amazingly successful for you. This the seminar, not just doing seminar, selling, but building your entire Five Rings organization around this really killer presentation that you've been polishing and perfecting over the years. Why do you think that the seminar selling is so powerful? You have other groups that do things like leads and things like that, and cold calling. What is it about the seminar selling that you think is so powerful?
So it's twofold. Number one is we live in a really education-based society right now. People are very focused on learning about things. If you were going to buy a refrigerator next week, first thing you do is get on Google and learn about refrigerators.
Yep.
People just don't go buy things right now. People want to be educated and understand where they're spending their money.
Yeah.
And people really have a desire to be educated about money. The second thing, though, the reason why a seminar or a workshop system works is you bring people into a group setting. Sales feels very confrontational to people in America today. One-on-one feels confrontational. It feels like a win-lose situation.
Yeah.
And even if a person wants to buy something from you, when you're in a one-on-one situation, they spend more time thinking about how they're going to say no than they are even listening to you because they want to win that one-on-one battle.
This is very true. People who are listening to this, you can connect with that. Every time someone knocks on your door, before they open their mouth, the first thing you're thinking is, how do I get out of this politely? You're not even listening to what they're saying, right?
But when you bring them into a group, they can hide in the group. So when they hide in the group, they're not going to be confronted, no questions. They can just disappear in that group. What happens then is they open their mind. And all of a sudden they're thinking, why didn't I learn this in school? Why hasn't anybody taught us this information before? And pretty soon they want more information.
Right.
As a result, usually about 80% of the people who come to our workshops ask for an appointment.
Yep. And it's such an amazing presentation. That's the other thing about it, Mike, is this is a presentation that, yes, the whole thing about the group, but when they open that mind, it needs to be really killer information delivered in a way that is engaging and that really calls for action at the end. How long did it take you to put together Money 101?
So it's kind of a process. In my first 20 years working with my former company, I learned most of the fundamentals and processes there. And I had enough of the pieces put together that we put the initial Money 101 presentation right away. But it's evolved. It always evolves as things change in our economic climate. The seminar has changed a little bit from here and there, but the fundamentals are always the same. That's another real key to our workshop system is we keep it very simple and very basic. The traditional industry teaches seminars, but they teach at a PhD level. And their whole philosophy is we're smart, you're dumb, give us your money, we'll help you out.
Yeah.
And people don't buy into that
They
anymore.
don't feel empowered by that.
So we teach at a very elementary level on purpose because even if somebody comes to our workshop as a PhD in biology or a doctor or a lawyer, they're a third or fourth grader when it comes to personal finance. And so if you teach at an elementary level, they have better capacity to understand. They have a more willingness to understand. You teach at the level where people are at, they're going to grasp that. If you try to teach at a higher level, they just get more confused. And confusion never leads to a positive outcome.
That's right. One thing that I think is fascinating about Money 101 is that not only does it help obviously educate people who are invited to the dinner and open their mind to the possibilities of the solutions that Five Rings offers, but it also has turned into a very vital part of how you bring people into the business, because people can sit in that dinner and they can learn about things, and then they really have a couple of options, right? They can either become a client, or if they think it's something that they're interested in, they can help invite people to the seminar, right?
Absolutely. I mean, in recruiting salespeople, if they have not been in sales before, certainly not in the money world, they can be really intimidated by that. They can't see themselves succeeding in an individual basis. But when they sit through a workshop or a seminar, they're like, all I have to do is invite people to this.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, we don't really teach people the fundamentals and basics of being a great salesperson or even those dynamics. What we teach them is how to invite people to workshops
Right.
because honestly, the people who invite the most people make the most money.
Mm-hmm. And that's the rule. He who talks to the most people writes the most business, right?
Absolutely. That's right.
Well, it's been a pretty incredible growth. You've seen and developed literally thousands of agents over the years, Mike. What separates, you think, in all of your years of experience, and you've seen a lot of agents come, a lot of agents succeed, a lot of agents flame out, a lot of agents never get off the ground, right? So what are some of those characteristics and traits that you see that are shared among those people who are able to come into the business and create a lasting, successful career?
I think the people I've seen that have had the biggest impact are people who find their place, they find their niche,
Mhm.
and then they become the best in the world at that niche. An area where I see people really struggle is trying to identify the idea of the month club. Like they go to a workshop and that sounds like a good idea. I'll try that. Then they go to another meeting and they will all try that.
Mhm.
Uh, to identify your system, your way of getting in front of people and what you want to specialize in, or the type of products you want to specialize in, or the type of people you want to work in, and then stay in that niche and become the very best in the world at it, I think is what has led most of our people to the ultimate success. Here again, it's always about are they getting in front of people? So they, number one, master the art of getting in front of unlimited numbers of people. But
Mhm.
then number two, the people they're getting in front of fit that niche. So their probabilities of succeeding at a high level percentage wise go way up.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to be the master of all, you can't be the master of all. Identify something you really want to learn, really want to be good at, helps the most people, and then become the best in the world at it.
And then on the flip side of the coin, you mentioned a few things, mistakes people can make as far as trying to solve every problem for everyone. What are some other characteristics or habits that you see of people who don't succeed in this industry?
So the jumping from idea to idea is by far the biggest one for sure.
Hmm.
Or at uh, one of our great leaders in our company, Rickson and Moore, uses this phrase all the time about learn a little, practice a lot. Learn a little, but practice a lot.
Hmm.
And so many people who get into our industry want to learn a lot, but they practice very little.
Or they want to, yeah, go jump on a bunch of webinars and learn a bunch of things. And hey, I spent 4 hours on Zoom today learning. So that was a great day of work, but
That's right.
they didn't talk to a single person. That's not going to put money in their pocket, right? So it is important to have a balance.
Yeah. Here again, it goes down to that focusing and really have a deliberate attitude about being the best in the world at a specific way of doing business, your way, not somebody else's way,
Right.
but your way of doing business, and then just stay on that course. The most successful people in our company are doing the exact same thing today that they were doing 5 years ago and 10 years ago and 20 years ago. They're doing it better, but they're doing the same thing, almost saying the same words. They've become proficient at really narrowing it down to that instead of trying to always entertain themselves. Salespeople get so bored of doing the same thing over and over and over and
Yeah.
over. They have a tendency to start entertaining themselves by going off on tangents or bringing in a new idea,
Uh,
and pretty soon the results suffer from it. If they could just stay that course, they're really better off. I've been diagnosed most of my life with quite a bit of OCD. It's
mhm.
actually worked to my benefit
I would
because
say
I
so.
could do the same thing over and over and over every minute of my life. Uh, you've probably heard the phrase, what's the definition of doing the same thing over and over but expecting a different result? That is what?
Insanity.
Insanity. But what's the definition of doing the same thing over and over but getting a good result or a better result each time?
Success.
No, it's genius, is what that is. It's genius. But and if you can just stay off the board of thing, understand that it's okay
Yeah.
to be a little bored. It's a really high paying board industry. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We talked about the habits and the things, the similar traits that you see in successful personal producers. What about agency builders? You have to have a ton of opinions about the right way and the wrong way to go about building an agency, right? So let's start there. What are some of the most successful traits, characteristics that you see repeated in the people that you have recruited and that have since built their own successful agencies? What are some of the common characteristics that you're seeing among those builders?
The greatest recruiters, the greatest builders that I've ever worked with, and the ones in our company are the ones that are doing it consistently. They're not recruiting occasionally. They're doing it consistent. They actually have a schedule. They actually have, it's part of their minimum standard performance on a weekly basis to have so many interviews, to meet with so many people. There are also people that are tremendous motivators and movers and shakers. You know, you don't have to be like a Tony Robbins or anything like that, but you have to have a capacity to want to move people and direct people in a certain direction. Our greatest builders by far are people who have a desire to really want to change people's lives and understand that great capacity they have to help people get from where they are to where they want to be, and create a movement to get there for sure. So, but it's a habit, just like any other habit. It develops over time, but they begin into the habit of constantly recruiting, constantly building, constantly moving people in the right direction.
Right.
It's really important.
Yeah. So you obviously have been growing, Five Rings for over 20 years now. Actually, just over 20 years now. You've gone through a lot of different growth phases, right? Recently, just in the past 5 years, basically since COVID, Five Rings has absolutely exploded. What have been, obviously, it's an amazing success story, but there have to be challenges that come with that. What are some of the challenges that happen when you finally get to see that big explosion in growth, which for you came 15 years in? What are some of the challenges that come along with that, and how have you been able to deal with some of those challenges?
So obviously, actually, our business is actually very simple, and our model is very simple. The hard part is we're dealing with people. And so your challenges are always going to be mostly people challenges. So I've been accused of running one of the world's largest adult daycare centers. And most people, that would drive crazy. I happen to love it. I was an athlete my whole life, and all I ever wanted to be was a coach. And but all my coaches talked me out of it because they said I'd be broke the rest of my life. But I find myself today teaching and coaching every minute of my life and changing people's lives that way. And that whole thing of understanding how to move people who are at different levels, how to work with people who are superstars, people who are average, people who are barely out of the womb right now, but have to grow and develop. How do you move a whole organization like that? And you're dealing with volunteers. In the sales world, nobody makes you sell insurance. Nobody makes you work at our company. So how do you motivate in a all volunteer army? How do you move people ahead in that who are at different levels, different sizes, shapes, forms, genders, races, everything?
Right.
How do you collect a whole unit and put everything together, get everybody moving in that direction? That's the challenge of a leader in an organization like ours, for sure.
Mike, you've run Five Rings for 20 years now, and it's been I'm trying to say how to put this properly. There are groups out there that sometimes very publicly do things the wrong way, and they get caught doing it, or there's a scandal here, or people getting terminated here. I'm sure it can be very tempting as you're doing business to do things the wrong way, or to cut corners, or to take shortcuts. But you've never done that, and Five Rings has always maintained this stellar reputation, and that is a credit to you, obviously. What do you think the importance is of doing business the right way for long-term benefit?
Well, I have an absolute belief in one, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, one proverb or one,
Yeah.
one idea, ideal or a philosophy. I 100% believe in sowing and reaping. And so I believe if you sow bad seeds, you're going to reap bad harvests. I also believe if you sow the right seeds in the right way, you'll reap fantastic harvests. Luckily for me, and good, bad, or indifferent, I went through 20 years of this industry before I started Five Rings. So I saw all sorts of good things, bad things, and I made 10 million and one mistakes. I made some bad mistakes and did some things that really it didn't hurt people, but it caused people to lose their dream or caused people to not have the success they could have had. So from watching, and I've also observed other people crash and burn.
Right.
So I've learned what not to do just as much as I've learned what to do. But I have a deep-seated philosophy about this sowing and reaping, and I've seen it happen over and over and over and over, that No matter what, if you always do the right thing, then you're going to reap a positive harvest somewhere down the road. And if you do the wrong things, it will catch up to you somewhere, some way down the road. And so I just have this fear of having bad things happen to me. So I'm not
Yeah.
perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm still making mistakes today. But we try to do as much with integrity as we possibly can at all costs to make sure we're on the high path and going to reap the rewards that we're looking for.
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier how many nights in a hotel every night every year?
Yeah, they're about 250 to 275 a year. The good news is Monica, my wife, travels with me
Mhm.
75% of the time. Our children are all adults, and so we can afford to do that today,
Yeah.
and have that kind of a situation. And I'm the absolute worst in office CEO in the world. It's a waste of time. Actually, we have a chief operating officer, Denise, and she allows me to come to the office 3 days a month. And then at the end of 3 days, it's like, you need to move on. You're just in the way and you're causing problems. So
Yeah.
get out there. And I'm more the evangelist. I'm the evangelist of the company.
Mhm.
So I'm putting up a tent and saving financial souls.
Yeah.
And then I move the tent down to another city the next day and put up the tent and save some more souls. That's kind of how I see my capacity, is really spinning that dream for people and putting them in a chance to live a dream career inside of a dream company.
How many years can you possibly keep doing that at this level? Is there any thoughts of,
Yeah.
maybe passing a torch or taking it down a little bit? Is Monica begging for you to be home, or is she begging you to stay out on the road?
Yeah, she's as in love with it as much as I am. And so, a couple things that you learn at my age is that men who quit working die. So, I'm not interested in that. So, that's number one. And some of my mentors or some of my people that I really look up to, like Pat Riley, who is the coach of the Lakers, and now he's the general manager and of the Miami Heat.
Mhm.
And he's almost 80 years old, and he's still going strong. Keeps you young, keeps you active, keeps you moving in the right direction. And as long as we keep changing lives in a positive direction, I can't see myself doing anything different than this. Paul McCartney is still singing the same old Beatles songs, and he's in his 80s plus right now.
Yeah.
And so if they can do it, I feel like I can do it too. It keeps me energized, keeps me moving.
Don and I just saw him live last month. He still has it. He still has it for sure. You touched on mentorship. How important has mentorship been in your career? And that's part one. Part two, what should agents look for in a mentor?
So, two of my track coaches were the most important men in my life, and they literally shaped me. They were my father figures. They were people who helped me become more than I thought I was capable of becoming. They saw something in me I didn't see in myself. That's what I think a mentor has to really be.
Mhm.
They see more in you than you see in yourself, and then they help that draw that out of you. And I really dreamed of doing that. It made such an impact on my life. That's who I wanted to be. I wanted to be that person that did that for other people.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've had the blessing of being able to do that now for 30 or 40 years and continue to do it today. But it really requires an honest effort, living up to your promises, not over promising and under delivering. They take a step, you take a step, those types of things.
Yeah.
Those things are really, really critical. Do what you say you're going to do and really live up to the promises you make are really, really important for sure. But you need to be educated in the business. You need to understand the business. Need to understand your strengths and your weaknesses.
Yeah.
So I'm super strong in certain areas, not so strong in others. So one of the things I've learned to do is share mentoring. I don't have to be the only mentor. And so if they have a capacity to want to grow and build an agency, they go right under my wing and I'm going to work with them indefinitely. But if they really want to understand premium finance or
Mhm.
some higher level type sales situation, I've got people like Lyle Donnelly in the company that I would plug them with, and he could be their mentor in that capacity.
And you can have multiple mentors and
Absolutely.
should, right?
Yeah. And we have a philosophy in our company. We've had it from day one. Everybody helps everybody or go work somewhere else. Honestly, it's like, even if you're not earning an override, even if you're making no money, because of that belief in sowing and reaping, we believe if you sow a seed into somebody today, you'll reap the harvest somewhere, some way down the road. It may not be in that situation. So we have people working with people that are not even in their agencies, not even in their organizations, helping them and helping them grow and prosper that way. And then it always comes back in return.
Mhm. You've hit a lot of goals, and it's in over the 20 years, especially in the last 5 or so. Um, where do you see Five Rings Financial in the next 5 years, 10 years?
Well, we really truly want to make an impact. Our immediate goal is to get over $100 million worth of paid life premium every single year, and a $500 million to $1 billion worth of annuity paid premium. Those are very important goals, because if we hit those goals, it means we're making a major impact in our communities with the number of people that are going to bed at night, laying their head on the pillow, knowing that they're protected with living benefits, they're protected with guaranteed lifetime income, they're guaranteed from losing money in their investments and the returns on their investments. That's very, very important. I give a presentation to a lot of new people where I talk about being in this industry gives a person a chance to be the most important person in the world. Now, you may not be the most important person in the world on TV or anything like that, but to that client, the day they die too soon, or the day they live long enough to see their money return on investment, or they need a living benefit, I promise you, there's a day that client will look at you and say, "You're the most important person we've ever met in our life." And having that opportunity is absolutely unbelievable to be in that situation, to be that person. And so a great mentor sees that in other people, helps other people see that kind of that possibility, and does whatever it takes necessary to make that happen in their life.
Oh, Mike, it's been an incredible story to watch. You've been an incredible partner for us at Alliance Group, obviously our number one agency. Some of the best relationships that I have are with you and your agents at Five Rings Financial. So I want to thank you for your partnership, for your mentorship, and all of the people that you're helping shape. And thank you so much, of course, for being our guest on the Alliance Group podcast.
Yeah, I do want to throw in a plug, and this is not solicited. You didn't ask me to say this. Our relationship with Alliance has been maximum benefit. One of the things I identified in my first 20 years was you can't do it all yourself. You have to be able to lean on resources and people that bring different capacities to your organization. What you guys do for us on the marketing side, what you do for us in terms of relationships with our business, we could not accomplish those goals without. There's a tendency for a person in my situation to think I can do it all myself. I was just sharing with you guys earlier today that people are either motivated by their brain or their heart or their ego. And when you're motivated by your ego, you think you can do it all. And it's literally impossible. You cannot. The industry is too multifaceted. So you have to identify power partner relationships like we have with Alliance that make that happen hand in hand. And so we're grateful beyond belief for that relationship and with all the people that we have here at Alliance and with Five Rings. It really is let me think of how to say this. Together we're better.
There you go. Beautiful. You got one in. It has been an amazing symbiotic relationship, watching both of us go like this, helping more and more people, reaching goals. And we're not done yet, baby.
I agree. Let's go do it.
Mike, thank you so much again. Thank you guys all for joining us. Make sure to join us on our next edition of the Alliance Podcast.
Listen to this interview and more on the Alliance Group Podcast.